Hello guys, welcome back to Game Development Tutorials. Today we are making the wave spawner for our enemies. So before, our enemies just spawned at a fixed time and there were no real waves. Okay, so today we are gonna make it actually spawn waves. This probably will be a two-part series because it's kind of complicated. And I'm sorry that I did not post on Sunday, or at least not this game on Sunday. That's because I'm trying to find how to make a wave spawner. And I was trying to make one myself, and apparently that's really hard. So I looked to Brackeys for help. I'll link his channel in the description. And I came up with this code that he used in his 2D platformer tutorial series. If you are a beginner, I recommend to not watch it. I'd recommend you watch it when you're a bit more intermediate. Even in the description of his video, he says it's really not for beginners. But anyway, let's just start. Okay, so we just want to open the enemy spawner script by double clicking on it. And then here's where the fun begins. Oh boy. Okay, so first thing, we want to delete all of this code. Backspace. We do not need it. We will be using completely different code because I set the whole thing up wrong. Okay, so we will be going back into Unity because we will be making another script. Okay, wait for this to compile. Here we go. Okay, so we will click on the script folder, right click, hover over create, and we want to create a C# script. We just want to name this wave and press enter to actually make the script. It will compile, as you can see with that loading, buffering thing. Double click on it to open it, and it will open up this. Okay, so we do not want to use the void start or void update method, and we do not want it to derive from mono behavior. But we do want it to derive from system.serializable, which means it basically means that it will show up in the inspector when we actually add it. And if we do not add this, then none of these variables that I am about to write would show up. Okay, so we only need 4 variables for this. We need a public string. A string is characters, so a string can be letters and numbers. We'll call as long as they are in parentheses. So if we just call this string name, set it equal to, then put in parentheses, we can type whatever we want without getting an error. But I will not set the name to anything. I will just leave that as that. Okay, another thing that we want is a public transform for the type of enemy that I want to spawn. Yes, I know that I said that we can only spawn game objects, but we can also spawn transforms. That's basically the position and the rotation and the scale. Okay, public transform, we just want to call this enemy prefab. Then we want public int. So ints are integers, but they can only be whole numbers. So public int, we want this to be the enemy count. Then a public float, so this is like an int except it can have decimals. So public float spawn rate. Okay, and that is our script for the wave class. Now we can go back into our enemy spawner. And by the way, guys, try to keep track. I'm not going to explain the code today. I will in the future. It's just a bit complicated. And I also know that I said in the last video that I would explain the enemy spawner code, but that's not really going to happen in this video because we just deleted all of it. So, yeah. Okay, the very first variable that we want to do, this is a completely new variable. We want to type in public enum. So what this is if we just name it spawn states. So what this is, it's basically states. So it can have state running, state chasing, then state attacking. And then you can write if state.state is equal to attacking, it will do a certain thing. If state.state is equal to running, then it will do that code. So in order to actually specify the states that we want, or the type of behavior that we want, we will do curly brackets. Okay, and now we just put in the states that we want. I'm going to put these in all caps. So state 1 will be spawning, then comma, because that's how we separate the states. Second state will be waiting, and the last state will be counting. Then to end it off, like everything, we end it with a semicolon. Okay, and what's also cool about these is that you can get really fancy with it. We are not going to do it, but I'm just going to show you how. You can just write public spawn state, save that, go back into Unity. Let's wait for this to compile. Then when you click on the enemy spawner, you can see this drop down. So I personally like that, but we're not going to be using the drop down for this video because it will automatically switch between states. Okay, good. Okay, so in these possibly 2 videos, I'll be introducing you to a lot, so try to keep track and I will explain the code. Okay, so the next thing, we want a public wave. So we want this script to be an array. So this is basically a list of these variables. So it's these variables over and over and over. And we are just going to call these waves. Now if you save this, go back into Unity, I'll show you what an array does. So you will have this little drop down for waves. We can just open that. And then you will need to specify the size. So this is the amount of waves. So I'm going to say 1 wave for now. Then you will get all these variables that are in the wave. So you can specify the name. I'm going to say run, and you can see that it changes in real time here too. Then we can drag in the enemy prefab. So I'm just going to drag in the enemy spaceship. And the enemy count, I'm going to say 5. Spawn rate. I think this is the amount of enemies per second. I think I'm just say 1. Okay, and then if we just put in 2, then this will be wave 2, and we can do the same thing, except we can change it up. So 10, 3. Right now, I'm just gonna keep it with wave 1. Okay, so that is what an array does. Now we can go back into Visual Studios and into the enemy spawner script. Then we will need a public int, and we will call this next wave in capitals. This is also pretty special, because it's not really an int. So we will put in the squiggly braces, whatever. So this is a getter. So this will get a certain value and then return it. Don't worry, it does not make sense at first, but as time goes on, it will make sense. So before we can do anything in here, we have to make a private int called next wave, and we just want to set that to 0. Okay, so now in this public int next wave, we can say get, then return next wave plus 1. Then end it with a semicolon inside here. And let's see how much time are we at. Wow, already, and we've barely done anything. Okay, nice. Okay, And now, we can specify our spawn points, so we can actually pick where our enemies spawn, and it will just, and then when the enemies are spawned, it will pick a random spawn point and spawn there, so we can actually control where the enemies are spawned. Okay, but we cannot control in what order, so it's still completely random, except you can control where they spawn. Okay, so now we can say public transform, but we want it to be an array of transforms, so we can have multiple spawn points. And this will be called spawn points. Okay, we will be adding a lot of variables, but that's just to set us up for next time. Okay, spawn points, we want a public float called time between waves. So this just specifies how much time is between waves, as the name suggests. I'm just gonna set that to 5, and just the F after 5 just means that it's a float, so it can have a decimal. You don't have to put it. I just like it like that. Okay, now we can say private float wave countdown. So this is the actual countdown. Then we will basically be doing the same thing that I did here, except it's a little different. So I'm just going to completely write it out. We want public float wave countdown. Okay, then curly brackets, then get return wave countdown in lowercase. Okay, good. So today we will just be making all the variables and basically understanding what it does. The next video we will actually get into the actual coding, and it will be fun. But this video is necessary, so you cannot skip this. It is absolutely necessary. Okay, so now we want 3 more variables, I think. Private float search countdown. So this is just searching for the enemies to see if there's any left, because the only way we can transition to a new wave is if all the enemies are destroyed. We will just set that to 1F or 1 second. Then we want a private spawn state. We will just call this state, and this is basically like the drop down, except it's private, so we cannot see it in the inspector. And you'll just set that to spawn state dot counting. So it's setting it to this right here. Okay, now this is the last variable. We can say public spawn state. We'll just call this state. This is another getter, and in case you do not know, that's what this is. So we can just say get return state. And I'm pretty sure that no one knows what this does. They just do it, possibly because it looks fancy, I guess. But it does have a purpose. I'm just not sure of it. I have to do some more research on it. But you can do the research. It's all fine. But yeah, that is it for this video. If we just go into Unity, a bunch of variables should pop up. Well, not a bunch, but yeah. Okay, so that is where we will leave it with this video. I hope you have enjoyed, and if you have, please like the video and subscribe. It really helps. And thank you guys, and see you in the next video. Bye, guys. And hold on, just to clarify something, at the end of the series, I will show you how to post this game. It does not cost any money. It's on this little site called itch.io, and this is just where a bunch of games are. So you can choose to sell your games or make them completely free. So yeah, that is it for this video, officially. I hope you have enjoyed, and yeah, bye guys, see you in the next video.